Hey there, welcome to another Curtis Stage video tutorial. Today's tutorial is in Photoshop. We are going to be doing an animated image. So we're going to use the animation or video timeline in Photoshop. This is going to allow us to make sort of a parallax effect with an image. So let's get started. So a parallax effect would be the idea that a camera is moving out. So the person's getting smaller as the camera operator is zooming the lens. So you get this, what's called a parallax effect. It's pretty cool. So we can do that in Photoshop. So we're going to use an image. It's just a regular still image that we're using. It's just an image that I took in the Colorado desert in the Great Sand Dunes. Pretty cool. Actually, not the Colorado desert. It's in Colorado. It's the Great Sand Dunes there. If you ever get a chance to go there, it's pretty amazing. It's 10,000 feet up. There's these sand dunes. Crazy. This picture doesn't even do it justice. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to open this image up in Photoshop. So when we have Photoshop open, we're going to click Create New. Let's create a certain size image here. What I want to do is I want to have this image scaled for, let's say, Instagram. Just make it a square image. So I'm going to do 1080 by 1080, resolution 72. That's just fine. RGB color, background doesn't matter. And we're going to click Create. So we're going to have this kind of square image. Now you'll see I have a video timeline already open right down here. So if you don't see this, I'm going to get rid of that for a second. So if you don't see this, you go to Window and you're going to go to Timeline. We've used it before in one of my tutorials for Cinemagraph. If you followed along with that tutorial, we've been here before. So I'm going to go to Window and Timeline and open that up. So you have that open down there. Now let's bring in the image that I've given you for the demo. So I'm going to bring in this JPEG. If I pull it right off my desktop, it's going to come in and we're going to scale this up. So I'm going to zoom in on this thing. I'm going to scale it up here. Something like that. Something like this. That's cool. And hit the check mark. So we want something like that. Now, with it being a smart object, we can move it around. It's not going to cut off any of the image at this point, but I'm going to want to delete her, separate her from the background of this image. So I'm going to zoom in. I want to do that. The way to do this, of course, is going to be to make a selection around. So one way we can do that is we can take our magic wand or a quick selection tool. So I'll take the quick selection tool. My size of my tool is about 25 with a hard round on here. And of course I've got this plus up here, which is add to selection. I'm going to start at the hat, kind of work my way down. If you have to zoom in, you can. We've used this tool in my demos before. Don't worry about in between her legs, that's fine. Shadow, that's fine. So once I've got that, awesome. What I'm going to do is create a new layer and copy her to this layer. Right, so I'm going to make a copy onto that layer. So what I can do is go back to my bottom layer and Command C, and then go to the top layer, Command V, paste, and you'll see she's up there. And of course I could get this nicer if I did it in a mask. You can work on that more if you know how to use masks. If you've done my tutorials with masks before, you can create a mask out of this and make it even more fine-tuned. I'm going to do that today, but for right now, that'll work. Now I'm going to turn the eyeball off on this, so I'm just seeing my original background image. And what I want to do is I want to utilize, though, before I turn that off, I want to hold down Command or Control on a PC, Command on a Mac, get my selection based off of her, then turn the eyeball off and click on the bottom layer. So essentially, I'm using this selection that I just made, and I'm going to now use it on the bottom layer. I'm going to do a content aware fill. So I'm going to go over to Edit and Content Aware right here. Now you'll notice it'll be grayed out if you have a smart object. So I actually have to rasterize this image before I can do this. So let me do that first. So I'm going to go to Layer, Rasterize, Smart Object, or Layer, Smarter Objects, Rasterize, either one. Still has that selection, completely fine. So now what I'm going to do is now I can do it. I can go to Edit, Content Aware Fill, and you've got this dialog box that comes up. Now it's not going to do a great job on it, but let's look at some of these settings in here. We're going to go opacity all the way to 100%. This is just showing us what our thing is here. Auto, I'm not going to pick auto on this image. I'm going to pick rectangular. I'm not going to check sample all layers. Fill settings, I'm going to pick none on that. Rotation adaptation, I'm going to go, let's see, high maybe? No. Let's pick none on that as well. A little bit of clouds going on in here. It's a little strange. Scale. Scale seems to work pretty good. Let me go back to the color default. No, I'm going to say none on that since we don't have any color. Let me go to medium. Sometimes you have to just kind of, yeah, so maybe medium on the rotation adaptation. We're going to get a little line on here. We're going to fix that in a second. I'm going to click OK. So once I do that, then I'll Command D, deselect. You'll see I have a little bit of edge on my image. So now I want to zoom in and clean this up. I'm going to do a combination really quick of my clone stamp and patch. So I'm going to go to the clone stamp tool. I'm going to pick a soft round brush on the clone stamp tool. Doesn't matter the size. I'm going to use my bracket tool, get a little bigger here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to option click kind of right next to this. I want to get rid of this line. Option click right here. And then drop, so I'm just going to paint right in there. I'm going to go to this side, option click over to the side, and then paint. It's sand, so it should be pretty good. Whenever you get something repeating, you can kind of just fix that. So right down in here, I'm going to option click right there, and then clean this up. You kind of have to go in waves. You don't want to try to do this all at once in one fell swoop because your selections have to be from different areas. Otherwise, it's going to look repetitive. Someone's going to know that you clone that. I've got some repetitive right here, so I can just click that out right there. A little repetitive right there. So I'm going to option click here. Option click picks up pixels, paint across. If you paint too high, you'll bring back some repetition, but I don't think anybody's going to see that. Let me go up here. This is going to be the tough part up here by the hat where that white is. So we'll use the patch tool probably for that. So let me go over here, option click, clean up, and option click, clean up there. And we don't want it too repetitive, so I'm just going to kind of put that line there. Hat, I'm going to zoom in for this. It was a little tricky. It didn't do a great job on this image here. So I'm going to, let's see if I can kind of option click and just go straight across like that. Straight across like this. Let's see. We'll go over here. Go across. You have to go in a couple waves. And I want to go across because what I'm doing is I'm getting the same light and I'm getting the same lens camera thing. Now over here I can't really go. Oh, let me get that neck right there. I'm going to kind of start over here and then go over there. Pretty good. This I'm not going to be able to do with the crop tool or with the clone stamp tool because clearly I've got different light and dark here. So I'm going to have to zoom in and use the patch tool. So I'm going to go up here to the patch tool, make sure this says source right up top, patch normal, and this first one right here, which is just new selection. And what I'm going to do is do this in small waves too. So I'm going to kind of go around this and then take it over here to the left and drop it. No, that didn't work very well. Let me take it over here. Pretty good. I'm going to take this, take it over there. That's pretty good. And then I can kind of fill this in, so I can kind of do this. So you just have to kind of finesse it a little bit. So the top here, I'm going to get this part right up in here. I'm going to try to do it in a small section right here. It's kind of a little tough there. Maybe something like that, a little tough. Yeah, so a little messy right there. So what I want to do is now I want to take the clone stamp tool and get my brush smaller and kind of recreate this hill a little bit. So it's a little struggle here. So I'm going to kind of down like that. Oops, zoom in. I'm gonna option click, pick up that. I wanna kind of make sure I've got option click there, put it right there. See, I'm just kind of, sometimes you don't paint, sometimes you just drop. So I want to get this hill, so I don't want it to be super. So I want to option click right here, clone stamp. So it's always a combination between the clone stamp and the patch. So I'm recreating the top of this little hill right here. See how I'm doing it? It's getting there. You just have to kind of mess with this. This is going to take a lot longer than the animation part, actually. So there we go. Something like that. No, people wouldn't know. Maybe right here I can clone this. Now, kind of just get a little something like that. Nice. So zoom out. Yeah, you'd have no idea, right? Pretty good. So just kind of look at your image, make sure you kind of got everything out of there. Maybe down in here, it's fine. All right. So this all looks good. So I'm going to go back to my move tool. It's all good. So now I've got my image. I got both the layers here. Command minus. It's nice. Now what I want to do, I'm going to move her on the top layer down. I want to kind of don't want her, you know, kind of legs, just kind of, and I'm going to make her larger. So Command T, I'm going to make her bigger. She's going to get smaller over time, right? Background's fine. If I go here and Command T, still got that whole image there. I can kind of start off, I can kind of get it a little bit more dramatic sky, and then it's going to, you know, kind of come towards us a little bit. So I'm just Command T to kind of get a good composition, something maybe like that looks cool. So I got some clouds and stuff. So she'll get a little smaller. This will get come towards us, so it'll get a little bigger. I just kind of want to get it positioned so the start of it looks kind of cool. It's about kind of finding where the composition is. Maybe you want something like that. I don't know, something like, yeah, I don't want to move too much over to the side because I'm going to reveal what I took out, right? But maybe something like that even. I've got over here is where I took her out. So I want to just be careful. So, you know, pick a spot on here. My original composition, she was, you know, somewhat kind of like this. So that's looking pretty cool. Now I'm going to select both of the, well, first of all, I'm going to convert both of those into smart objects so that when I scale them in a minute with the video timeline, they're going to be much nicer scale. It's going to be the scale is going to look better. So I'm going to go to layer, and I'm going to go to Smart Object, Convert Smart Object. I want to do that to each one of them. So Layer, Smart Objects, Convert to Smart Object. If I was going to do any filters or any scaling, having them Smart Objects just makes them look better. Now I'm going to hold Shift down, select both of those, and here's where we're going to now create the video timeline. So I'm going to go down to the bottom down here where I had my timeline sitting down here, and I'm going to click the Create Timeline button. Awesome. So you can see I got my playhead here. It's about 5 seconds. Right, that's fine for today. And in my artboard, I had an artboard here. If you didn't have an artboard, don't worry about it. You'll see your 2 layers. I have my artboard, so I'm going to open up my 2 layers. And here they both are, the video tracks right here. So I've got them both here. They're both still tracks. In animation number 2, you're going to see a different technique that we're going to do in that demo. But this week's demo, we're just doing this way. So you'll see when I toggle this open right here, right? Because I had an artboard, my 2 layers are there. If you didn't have an artboard, don't worry about it. You'll just see your 2 layers right there. All right, so I want to toggle layer 1 open, okay? And you can see that I've got a transform right here, the word transform. And this little stopwatch is going to set what's called a keyframe. So I want to click that stopwatch. It sets a little yellow keyframe with my playhead at the very start. So I have my playhead at the very start. I clicked that stopwatch and it gave me a keyframe. Now I'm going to go down to the end down here. I'm going to click that stopwatch. I don't need to click the stopwatch again. I guess that'll get rid of the keyframe. See that? So I didn't want to do that. So let me do that. Let me go back here. I'll click the stopwatch. What I want to do is when I go to the end here, I don't really need to do anything. I mean, I guess I could click the keyframe and you see how it made a yellow keyframe there. It's fine. I don't have to do that because as soon as I make a change to this, it'll create a keyframe and it'll create an animation. So I'm going to do a Command T on her. Command T is transform. And I'm going to shrink her down a little bit, right? Not much. It's a little, and maybe move her down a little bit. I don't know, shrink, move. And when I scrub, hit the check mark. And when I scrub through this, you'll see she's going to shrink and kind of move. Okay. And I can adjust this in a minute. Now, I'm going to toggle that closed just so I have more room. I'm going to go to the background, and I'm going to click on the background layer, toggle this open. You'll bring your playhead to the start and hit that little transform watch right there. It's a stopwatch, and it creates a keyframe there. Then I'm going to go to the end and move my playhead. This blue little button right there is a playhead, the red bar, right? It gives me a playhead in the timeline. You can see that I've got 5 seconds. And these are the frames in between. So there's 30 frames per second. I've got 5 seconds. That's how long this piece is. So now I'm going to click the add keyframe button right there. You can see it's yellow once again. I'm going to Command T. Now my Command T is on my background, and I'm going to make this get bigger, right? And you can make it get larger, and you don't want to go too big. I mean, it might kind of look weird if you go too large. So you decide kind of a little bit bigger, and you can scrub through and hit the check mark, apply that, scrub through and kind of see how that works. So she's getting smaller. Let me get this a little bigger. She's getting smaller. The background's getting bigger and coming towards us. Pretty cool effect there, right? Pretty awesome. You can play it right here. When you play it, it's going to go way slower than it actually is. So this is kind of trying to render the video when you hit the little play button. That's not how fast it's actually going to play. This is only 5 seconds long. So clearly that's lasting longer than 5 seconds. But you get an idea of what the animation looks like. I'm going to stop that. So now to get the real animation here, and of course I could cut it. I could make it smaller, less than 5 seconds. I could make it longer, and it's going to go really slow. We could add text and stuff to this and animate that. We're not going to do that as part of this tutorial, but clearly you could add another layer if you wanted to and create more animations. So when you turn in your demo assignment to me, if you're following along as a student in my class, you could add multiple layers to this now that you know how this works, and you could make text get bigger and smaller. You could sandwich text between her and the background. That'd be really cool. So you can try that out. I'll let you guys do that on your own. At the minimum, I want you to do this, because our next tutorial in animation, we're going to do a lot more frame by frame, kind of more animated sequences. We're going to do lots of stuff with painting and that. So it's a little bit more detailed. I wanted this one to be a little quicker just to get kind of the handle of this timeline. Now let's export this out. So we're going to go to File, and we're going to go to Export and Render Video. Never done this before, so Render Video. When we do this, a dialog box comes up. Select your folder, give it a name. I'm gonna say, well, maybe I'll just do MM200 demo. That's for my class. You can name it whatever you want. Demo-1. Put it in a folder. See how I've got a little subfolder there. Leave all this the way it is. It's an H.264. This can go up on Instagram. 1080 by 1080 could go up on Instagram. You want it to be high quality. Frame rate's 30, that's fine. 5 seconds pretty quick on Instagram, but mess around with it and click render. This is gonna get a little progress bar here, and when that's done, you'll be able to go into your folder and check that out. It's pretty cool. So let's go take a look once this is over. All right, so my file finished rendering, and now I can double click and open it. It'll open up a player on my computer, and I just press the play button. And there you go. Now you've got a much smoother, high quality animation. Pretty sweet. No one would know how you did that. Cool, what's called the parallax effect. But basically animating in Photoshop. We kind of did it already with the Cinemagraph. This is kind of an extension of that. And in the next demo, we're going to get into kind of more traditional animation. But this gives you the idea of how the timeline works a little bit. Nice. Pretty cool. Throw that up on Instagram. So you're going to want to give me one of those, fool around with it, add some more stuff to it if you want. This is pretty easy. All right. So that's been another Curtis Stage tutorial. Hope to see you guys soon.